regular session vote on new election laws. The White House concedes the country won't meet President Biden's goal of 70% of all adults getting at least one dose of a COVID-19 vaccine by July 4th.
Part of our objective was to return the country to normal, for people to enjoy backyard barbecues, which people across the country, millions of people will be.
Press Secretary Jen Psaki says the administration is on pace to meet the goal within a few weeks. Dr. Anthony Fauci says the highly contagious Delta variant now accounts for 20% of U.S. COVID cases. Gun control advocates have been urging the government to do more to stop illegal gun sales. Now the Justice Department says it will.
The Justice Department is sending gun trafficking strike forces to 5 cities with rising violent crime rates. The DOJ hoping to make a dent in the number of stolen or illegally bought firearms that are part of the increased number of gun deaths in New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Washington, D.C. The federal government saying it will work with local police to make it tougher to buy and sell illegal weapons.
ABC's Andy Field in Washington. You're listening to ABC News.
At CDW, we get that as an IT professional, your hands are full. Our experts can give you the help you need by custom configuring Apple products like the iPad and Mac.
From the KMET Weather Center for Beaumont, Banning, and the Pass area this afternoon, partly sunny, high 94. Mostly cloudy tonight, maybe a shower, low 68. Partly sunny, chance for a shower or thunderstorm Wednesday, high 90. For the Inland Empire this afternoon, it's going to be partly sunny, or high temperature 92. Palm Springs will have partly sunny skies with a high temperature of 106. I'm meteorologist Jim Minaldi for Smart Talk 1490 KMET.
Hello, listeners. This is Christopher from The Christopher Show. Hey, if you missed one of our shows here at KMET, don't worry about it. You can go to our webpage, and that's KMET1490am.com. Go to the homepage, click on the SoundCloud tab, and hear any show anytime you want.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates. The WK Law Power Hour is here to take you from zero to hero in legal knowledge in 60 minutes. A law firm with 40 years of experience is ready to give you legal guidance you need for free. What could be better than that? Amazing stories about actual cases, interesting and informative guests. Listen, watch, call in. Come ready to learn. And now your host for WK Law Power Hour, Paul Wallin.
Good afternoon, everybody. I want you to know it's an absolute pleasure to have our 6th show on the air. 6 shows where we've had unbelievably brilliant lawyers as guests in every prior show. And today's show is going to be no different and probably the best ever because my law partner of 37 years, it's hard to believe that I'm even saying that. I've been in the same law practice with this unbelievable human being for 37 years. My partner, Steve Klarich, and our law firm is Wallin and Klarich. And we're based in Orange County, California, but we have offices all through Southern California. And we help people with their legal problems. And through our email and through TikTok, we answer literally hundreds of questions every month for free. Cece, how can I help you?
Yes, I was involved in a car accident about a year and a half ago, and I drive intermittently, very infrequently for Uber, I just dropped off at Uber Eats, and anyway, this guy turned left in front of me. He failed to yield. It was established it was his fault, and he obliterated my new car and put me in the hospital. He had no insurance. So,
I'm so sorry to hear that.
What I don't understand is why, when I asked for full coverage, I didn't have an insured motorist on a new car, but the Kemper insurance said that I did not have it, which meant that they didn't cover the whole amount. Right. And then the Gap insurance didn't cover it because I was driving, quote unquote, for commercial. So anyway, my only recourse, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, small claims court. And I picked up a form. I had a question, though, because it says here, you must ask the defendant in person, in writing, or by phone to pay you before you sue. And I don't know what I should do in this regard.
Well, where are you calling from, first of all?
I'm calling from Beaumont.
Okay. What you should do is simple. Did you get his information? And you must
Yes,
have
I
got his
have.
information in the police report, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so you can email him or call him or in any way communicate by registered letter, and that's how you communicate it. And then, of course,
Okay.
as soon as you do that, all they're saying is you just want to like give it a shot. But you can sue for up to $10,000. And
Right.
obviously, if you get a judgment against him, then you can collect. And if he has a job and he refuses to pay you, you can garnish his wages. It's really not that
Okay.
complicated if someone has a job.
Okay. All
And
right.
I feel
Great. Yeah,
really
he was.
bad that they didn't have uninsured motorists, because the only thing you can do with that is obviously sue the insurance company. But they have 500 lawyers, and I guarantee you it's going to be very difficult. So I think the
Yeah.
best bet is to try to get your 10 grand. And based on what you told me, the police report must have put him at fault, right?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Definitely.
Yeah. So you're gonna definitely prevail. The only question is collecting. And if you have a question about collecting, since you're in California, you can just email me at any time, pjw@wklaw.com, free, and I'll be glad to answer your question. That's
Wait. I'm sorry. P.
pjw@wklaw.com.
Did you say P as in Paul? PJ.
Yes, P as
PJ.
in Paul, J as in Jeffrey, W as in
Uh-huh.
whale, at
Okay.
our law, at wklaw.com. That's our website.
Oh, okay. Yes. Well, by the way, I just want to thank you. I love your program, and I really appreciate that you're helping all of us that need help.
But
So
no problem.
it's
I
wonderful.
really appreciate
Okay.
you calling. And I wish you the best of luck, dear. Thank
All
you.
right. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Okay, great. Thank you for the call. And this is why anyone can call with questions like that. And my partner's coming on in about 7 minutes. If you have a question about anything, warrants, traffic tickets, or someone's in jail or in prison, there are so many laws that have changed that might help you shorten the sentence of someone that's doing jail time. Anyway, the whole purpose of the show is to educate people, because legal knowledge is power. It's that simple. If you have legal knowledge, you have power. And the way you get power is to get legal education. And I'm on TikTok. Our websites we have several websites that you can go to. Our initial website, wklaw.com, and you can get legal power. And once you have legal power, you're not going to be taken advantage of. For example, if you have a DUI case, you probably don't know what in the heck to do. It's free to go to our wklawdui.com website and get the knowledge you need so you make the right decision before you go to court. Because you've got to get a DMV hearing within 10 days of when you got cited, or you're going to lose your license, whether you were drunk or not. So there's a lot of things that we do. If, God forbid, you're in a child custody battle, those are complicated cases. Your kids, custody with your kids, and the money you get, and maybe child support or spouse support, you probably don't know much about it. You're probably traumatized enough by the whole divorce situation. To try to proceed without legal guidance is just stupid. You shouldn't do that. You have too much at stake. And it's free to call us, wkfamilylaw.com. Free. Go to the website with a tremendous amount of free information. Because nowadays, there's too many things. Even when you have a traffic ticket, it's a ton of money now for most traffic tickets. And in most cases, it's a point on your record. And if you're going over 100 miles an hour, you can lose your license and have a massive, massive fine, like with penalty assessments close to $1,800. Why wouldn't you want legal advice to help you? Anyway, you can call us at 951-922-3532. We'll answer your legal question, or you can go to at beachlawyerpaul.com, or you can go to pjw@wklaw.com, where we can answer all of your questions. Our firm was founded over 40 years ago. We've helped over 250,000 people. And today you're going to have the massive pleasure of Mr. Klarich, Steve Klarich, my partner, who started with me when I think he could barely shave. And we can talk about some of these great stories of our practice together and try to answer some of your legal questions. And I want you guys to know that it will be a very interesting conversation. And he's my only guest, because he deserves to be my only guest, because he's that brilliant. So please stay tuned. And if you want to ask a question, 951-922-3532. Or you can go to @BeachLawyerPaul at TikTok. Anyway, excited, great. It's going to be a great program, and we're going to be going to commercial break in a few seconds. And after we come back, it's Mr. Stephen Klarich, Wallin and Klarich's partner. So remember, legal knowledge is power, and you got to get some at this program, WK Law Power Hour.
You've been charged with a crime, and now you're facing the loss of your freedom. Where do you turn to get out of jail or stay out of jail? The law offices of Wallin and Klarich. Call 877-4-NO-JAIL. With over 20 years' experience and attorneys who work in your local courts, Wallin and Klarich can make the difference between jail and freedom. When you need help, make one call. Make it to Wallin and Klarich. 877-4-NO-JAIL. The call is free. Will you be?
Hey, are you okay to drive? Yeah, I'm fine.
17 to Central Jail.
If you've been arrested for DUI and are facing DMV and court hearings, it could mean losing your license, your job, and even your freedom. But Wallin and Klarich can help. Just call 877-4-NO-JAIL. With attorneys who know your local courts, Wallin and Klarich can make the difference between jail and freedom. Call Wallin and Klarich at 877-4-NO-JAIL. The call is free. Will you be?
When your children are taken by social workers, it may be the worst day of your life. When will I see my children again? Where are they going? How can I get them back? Who can I turn to for help to end this nightmare? The answers to all these questions are a phone call or email away. Wallin and Klarich have been helping defend parents who are battling the system to regain custody of their children for 40 years. Many of their clients have done nothing wrong to warrant their children being taken from them. Other clients may regret some action that they've taken with their children. However, in every case, the clients desperately need their children back. That's where Wallin and Klarich comes in. They know the dependency system. They will do all they can to work to try to get your children back with you. Take the first step and call Wallin and Klarich now for a free phone consultation at 877-466-5245. That's 877-466-5245. Or visit wklaw.com to chat with us. They'll be there when you call.
If you are facing criminal charges, your entire future is at stake. You need to act now to protect your job, your family, and your freedom. Call Wallin and Klarich at 877-4-NO-JAIL. Wallin and Klarich has over 30 years of experience in fighting for our clients' rights. With local offices in Riverside and San Bernardino, we are here to help you now. Call 877-4-NO-JAIL or go to wklaw.com. How much is your freedom worth? Call 877-466-5245. The call is free. Will you be?
When you have a warrant for your arrest, it's a very scary time in your life. When you drive a car, you have to be extra careful that you do not commit any sort of moving violation. You have to be looking over your shoulder, checking for police officers. Will you be stopped and thrown in jail? What a horrible feeling. For over 40 years, we have helped thousands of persons resolve their problem with having a warrant. In some cases, we can actually appear in court for you without you being present to recall the warrant. Depending on the facts of your case, you may never have to do 1 minute in jail. Stop living in fear. Call us now for a free phone consultation at 877-4-NO-JAIL. That is 877-4-NO-JAIL. Or go to wklaw.com. Isn't it time to get your life back? We will be there when you call.
Okay, everybody, we're back. Paul Wallin of Wallin and Klarich with my first and most amazing guest, my law partner, Mr. Stephen Klarich of Wallin and Klarich. Hi, Steve. How you doing?
Hello. Okay, Paul. Glad to be here.
Great. So, Steve, first of all, why don't you tell me a question everyone's going to want to know? Why do you think you decided to become a lawyer? Why did you go to law school in the first place?
Well, I wanted to go to law school because I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. I learned at a young age that contributing to other people and helping other people is the most satisfying. And that's why I chose law. I didn't decide criminal law, Paul, till I met you.
Right. So you came into I placed an ad, and this will blow people's mind. I think I was offering the amazing salary of $4 an hour. and I was firm on that. And I got a few applicants for the job, and one was Mr. Stephen Klarich. Well, I don't think he was even shaving then. We were both kids, and he came into my office, and I remember I only did criminal defense. And I said to him, well, he can tell you what happened when you came into my office.
Well, you came in, you said, well, I said, what type of law would you want to do? And I'm like, well, I took estate planning, state taxation, things like that. And then you said, well, okay, we do criminal law here. I wanted the job more than I wanted to do taxation. And I said, I can do that too.
I know that.
And you hired me, and that was September 1981, just 40 years ago.
So I hired Steve when he was like 20. How old are you?
24.
24 years old. I was 28 years old. I barely knew what I was doing. He clearly knew nothing about what he was doing. He wanted to do tax law, but when I told him it was criminal law, he said, I'll do that too. So that's how it started. And then, believe it or not, like a short time after that, I got a call that one of my mother-in-law's best friend's son was accused of murder. And it was in Victorville, which, if you don't know, is in the high desert. And Steve, I said, I didn't have an investigator. I didn't know nobody. It was just Steve, I, and a legal assistant. I said, Steve, we need to go on a road trip. Why don't you tell us what happened, Steve?
Well, Paul took me on a road trip. I was still a law clerk. But we had to do investigation. Here's Paul, 28 years old. I'm 24. He knew a little. I knew nothing. And we went up there to do an investigation, to interview witnesses, to take a look at the crime scene. Well, we looked at the crime scene. We examined everything because this man is being charged with murder. And it's a long story. I won't bore you with the details. But Paul, if you recall, that murder case ended up, he served 90 days in jail and was released.
I'll never forget it as long as I live. This guy was facing life imprisonment, and he was growing marijuana on his property, and someone came on his property to steal the marijuana. And this guy, our client, was really a nice guy, but if you're in the desert, you got to protect your marijuana. And he just took a warning shot over the guy's head, and the unfortunate victim decided to stand up at the time the warning shot was coming, and it went right through his head. So all of a sudden, our client is in charge with murder, and that guy who was there to steal some marijuana is dead. So the DA wanted like 12 years, 15 years. Anyway, I called my mother-in-law to testify because she was a close friend, and she was terrified. And I was terrified to question my own mother-in-law. And anyway, the bottom line is, this is a true story. Jewish lawyers, Jewish defendant, and the one and only Jewish judge in the history of San Bernardino County is sitting there. And he gave my client 90 days in jail, which he only did like 45 days, on a murder charge. That will never happen again in California. So anyway, that was our first experience. That was our first road trip. And now, Steve, that has gone from that to now, Steve, how many lawyers and how many staff do we have now?
Okay, well, all right. I'm not sure about the lawyers, about 11 or 12, and we have about 20, 25 staff members. We have multiple offices. You see, Paul, we started the firm, and it was doing very well in Orange County because we were good lawyers, and we cared about our clients. The word got out.
Okay, Joanna from TikTok, how can I help you, dear?
Hi, I just had a question for you guys.
Okay.
All right, so my boyfriend was convicted of assault with a deadly weapon, and there was a gun charge added, and he was sentenced to 18 years. Do you think your law firm can help him out to determine what new laws are in effect that could possibly shorten his sentence?
Steve, why don't you take that?
Yes. Absolutely. Laws have changed since he was convicted. An example of your boyfriend's case or your husband's case, it's AB 1509. Enhancements used to be mandatory. They tack on additional time for owning a gun, possessing a gun at the time of the crime. Now, however, it's discretionary. The judge doesn't have to give him all that time. Now, I'm not saying the judge will, but he has a right to be resentenced. If you look at 1170.23 as amended, you can file a writ of habeas corpus and ask to be resentenced based upon the new law. Not the law he was sentenced on, but the new law. And our firm is getting many cases exactly like those facts, actually.
So what I recommend you do is, now that you just have a basic understanding that there's something we may be able to do for him, is that you contacted our office by just calling 877-466-5245. You should write that down, 877-466-5245. Or you can go to wklaw.com and you can send us a live chat. And then we can get more information about your loved one's case, and we can do a preliminary check to see if we can help him. And if we can help him, then guys can decide to hire us. And the best thing about it is we'll tell you what your chances are. So you never pay a dime until you have a basic idea of what our chances are. Do you understand?
Yeah, thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you for calling, dear.
All right, thanks. Have a good one.
Okay, sure. So, Steve, you were talking about how we started, and where did you leave off?
Well, as of right now, we have multiple offices because, in essence, we've planted our seat of our law firm in Riverside and San Bernardino and Victorville and Torrance and West Covina because we have a formula that works. And the main thing about the lawyers that work in our firm is that they care. I've been doing this close to 40 years, Paul, with you. And we know in our experience, clients don't care what you know until they know that you care. If you don't care, you can forget it.
Wait, say that again. I want to repeat it. Clients don't know. No, clients don't care what you know until
they know
that you care. That is what my partner just said is the most important ingredient in seeking out a lawyer. They need to know that you really give a blank about them and you care about them and their case and their future. Then the rest comes, because so many lawyers are total jerks and they're insensitive and you feel that you can't even approach them to ask a question. I think we're successful primarily because we're approachable and nice human beings. And we're dealing with people at the lowest time of their life emotionally, where they're looking at the loss of their freedom, their loss of their job, maybe sex registration, prison. So I guess I would say, and I'm sure, Steve, you'd concur, that if you're talking to a lawyer and you feel that it's not a comfortable conversation, end the conversation and go to someone else. You agree?
Yes, there is too much at stake. I know your client may be nice, they may be nice people, but that's your lawyer. And if he's not going to get it done, you have to find someone who will. Way too much is at stake not to make the best decision on the attorney that you're going to hire.
So in terms of, Steve, your current role at Wallin and Klarich, one of the things that you are in charge of here is criminal appeals. Could you first of all explain, if someone's convicted, why it's important to look into possibly appealing?
Okay, if you're convicted of a crime, and let's say for this purpose, this conversation, it's a felony. If you're convicted at a jury trial, for example, you're very likely going to serve time in county jail or go to state prison. If it went to trial, you have 60 days from the day the judge actually sentences you to file that one piece of paper, notice of appeal. Now, the difference between an appeal, you're appealing a decision that was made by the judge. You're appealing a decision some ruling the judge may have made at trial. But you can only appeal things that are on the record. And many times they have clients saying, I want to appeal, the lawyer did a terrible job. Well, that may not be appealable unless it's on the record. So if it's on the record, the judge made statements, the lawyer made statements, that's appealable because you can read, see, and feel it. But if it's outside evidence, client tells me, well, my lawyer didn't call 4 witnesses, an expert, and this person and that person. And had he called them, the jury would have reached a different verdict. That's not an appeal, that's a writ of habeas corpus. And in our firm, we handle both. The writ doesn't have as many time restraints. An appeal does. Anytime you or a loved one are convicted, that judge imposes a sentence, 60 days to file the notice of appeal. The appeal itself can take anywhere between 6 months and 2 years.
So if someone is convicted after a jury trial, they only have 60 days to appeal.
Correct.
Right?
To
And if
file
they
a
don't-
notice, their intent to appeal.
And if they don't, they're SOL, that's it?
Probably they are.
Sandra, how can we help you today?
Hi, I wanted to see if you could answer something that I was contemplating with. My dad was convicted of 3 felonies, and the judge sent him to prison for 23 years about a month ago. And we think that he was not properly represented by the public defender. And is there anything that we can do now to try and help him?
Okay.
Steve will answer.
Absolutely. You say he was sentenced a month ago. You have
Yes.
1 month to file that one-page notice of appeal. Hire yourself a lawyer. Call us if you'd like. You file a notice of appeal within that 30 days. Once you file that notice of appeal, at least you protect your father's rights to that appeal. But at the same time, we can hire an investigator, interview witnesses, and bring up new evidence or different evidence to show that he's innocent, or to create that reasonable doubt that that previous lawyer didn't do.
We also have to look at what objections the public defender made at trial. We have to look at, did the public defender properly represent your loved one? For example, did the public defender keep switching, or did he have the same lawyer all the time? How many times did the public defender really visit him in jail? Did they really go over his defenses? Did your loved one testify or not? There are so many issues in a legal case. And of course, if he got sentenced to 23 years, it could be the equivalent of a life sentence, depending on how old he is. So you need to, it all starts with a free phone consultation to our office. Most people who are in this situation are so scared. Maybe they didn't realize they needed a private lawyer before the trial. Maybe they didn't have money for a lawyer for the trial. And now they ended up with a public defender. That's why we're here, to try to help people, try to give them legal advice, at least so they know what their options are. So feel free to call us, 877-466-5245, and we can go from there. Okay, dear?
Okay, thank you very much.
You're very, very welcome. Thank you. Okay, so when someone appeals, we're talking about criminal appeals, and I'll try to repeat for TikTok people what Steve's saying, but when someone appeals the conviction, does that mean that if, let's say they got 9 years in prison and now they're appealing, does that mean that they stay in jail, or we can make a motion to try to get them out of jail, or how does that work?
Yeah, he's entitled, he can get bail on appeal. He can request bail on appeal, but it's discretionary. The judge doesn't have to grant bail on appeal. A lot usually will depend upon the issues at that appeal, what issues that we see that exist to show that the appeal is not frivolous, that the appeal actually has merit, and that my client is not a flight risk. He's not going to run from these charges.
Can you tell me if we've had success, our firm has had success in filing writs of habeas corpus and appeals, and give an example or two?
Yes, the first example is 4 years ago, because that was the big one. We had an appeal that the entire conviction was reversed on a second-degree murder. And that was very simple. The judge didn't give a lesser included instruction to the jury. That's it. Brand new trial.
Wow.
He got that. Another client, we appealed and we lost. So we took a writ of habeas corpus. We won. His entire conviction was set aside. Now,
Wow.
Unfortunately, by the time the writ was granted, he had served his time. He was out on parole. Once we won the writ, parole officer was done. His conviction was reversed. His records were purged. This man is a free man. He's no longer have to register as a sex offender.
Wow.
So for him, that was his whole life.
Sure. So, Mr. Klarich, you're saying that if you lose the appeal, there's still an option to file a writ of habeas corpus, and in that particular case, you won the writ of habeas corpus, and everything was wiped off his record.
Everything was wiped off his record.
Okay.
But once you appeal, if you win the appeal, you get a new trial. But if you lose the appeal, the next step is you want to petition the Supreme Court for review. They may not grant review because they only grant one out of many, but if it's denied, it gives you a right to get to federal court, where a lot of times you'll get more favorable rulings by perhaps more liberal judges in federal court. But you can't get to federal court unless you exhaust all your state remedies, which includes the petition for review before the California Supremes, assuming you lose the appeal.
Wow. I can only tell you that if anyone you know has been convicted of a crime, Wallin and Klarich, with our 40 years of experience, is a damn good place to start looking for advice on what your options are. As I said, it's free. You're under a lot of stress. You don't want to let these time limits expire where you can't do anything about it. So consider that if, God forbid, you know someone who's facing a criminal charge. When a person is arrested and the family and the accused are looking to hire a criminal defense firm, what are the things that they should look for before they make a decision about a criminal defense firm?
Well, they should probably research that firm, whether it be going online, whether it be going on Martindale Hubble or ABO, all these lawyer rating systems where you could find out how good or bad your lawyer is. Yelp often will give people opinions about the lawyer, but experience is important. And that probably is the single most important is experience. So they've done cases like this, specifically these types of cases, and that they care,
What about the importance of hiring a lawyer or a law firm that is local to that court and the lawyer goes there often or very often? Why is that very important to consider hiring a lawyer that knows that local court? How does that work out in real life?
Yeah, knowing the local courts are important. Like in our law firm, we have lawyers that are assigned to certain courts. So if you have a case, let's say in the Central Orange County Justice System or in San Bernardino, we have lawyers assigned to those courts. So consequently, they know the DAs, they know the judges, they're part of the Bar Association, they go out with them for dinners and stuff, so they know them. Now, knowing them doesn't mean your case will be dismissed when they walk in the door. Of course not. But it gives your case a step up and more credibility because your lawyer knows which DA is more reasonable and how to jockey your case in front of the right judge and the right DA if you can to get the best result. But if you're brand new and you don't know the court system, the law is the same throughout the state, but it's administered very differently court to court.
And so much depends on the particular judge you're in front of, right?
Yes.
And is that a very strict sentencer, or is that judge maybe tries to get people into alternate sentencing, into drug programs? And if you're not familiar with that court, you're not familiar with that judge, right, you won't know how to even approach that judge, right?
Like in horse racing, you need a racing form. You need information about these people that are going to be judging your loved one, your client's life.
You know what's really interesting is that when we first decided, 20 years ago, maybe longer, to start opening offices in other areas other than Orange County, we did that because we were getting calls from a lot of people from Riverside and San Bernardino. And I didn't feel comfortable taking on those cases without really knowing the court system. So it was a big gamble at first because we had to invest in knowing that court system and hiring a lawyer that knew that court system and opening an office in that area. I mean, it was a major undertaking. But after we did that, because of our reputation in Orange County, people in Orange County had friends and family in Riverside, and they knew about our firm in Orange County, and they wanted our firm. And we weren't going to take on the cases until we could say to them, we know the Riverside court system. So we did that. And it went well. And then obviously we decided to do the same thing in San Bernardino. And then we did the same thing in West Covina. And we've done the same thing in Torrance. And of course, by doing that, that brings a much higher number of people who live around that in San Bernardino County.
Right.
So we currently now are able to service about 20 million people. in Southern California where we have offices. So that explains why we are so busy with so many phone calls. And yet, we still offer completely free consultations on anything you have to ask about. We don't charge a dime because we want to try to guide you to the right place. Whether sometimes people call us and we say, you know what, we can't help you. This other firm can help you. Sometimes people call us and they have a case in Northern California, for example. We don't have offices there, but we have connections, and we know so many experienced lawyers in Northern California and all parts of California, and we refer the case to them. So in many cases, we don't end up taking the case ourselves, but we can help the person get to the right place. And I think that is really, really important to not overreach. That means don't take a case on where you don't know anything about the court. And now hopefully this guides the people that are watching and listening to know it is really important, for example, not to hire a lawyer in Los Angeles County who say is in downtown Los Angeles on a case in San Bernardino. Because the odds are, number one, he won't know blank about that court. He won't know the judges. And guess what? He'll probably need a Thomas guide. They still even call it a Thomas guide. He'll probably need a Google Maps to find the court in San Bernardino, let alone handle your case there. And
also,
sometimes people call us.
And also, Paul, who's paying for the commute back and forth?
Yes.
Who's paying for the commute? The fee can't be less. It's got to be more. Who's paying for the high rent in downtown Los Angeles just to come to San Bernardino?
Right. And they're gonna and remember, gas is almost $5 a gallon.
Yeah, right.
And lawyers charge by the hour. Do you want to pay extra with traffic? You know, what is that? 90 minutes each way? It just makes no sense whatsoever to get a lawyer in Los Angeles for a case that's a criminal case in San Bernardino. What I want to talk to you about, Steve, is this concept of true believers, because many people do not understand, first of all, what a true believer is, and as it relates to how a person can take on, for example, someone who attacked the Capitol on, God forbid, on January 6th, one of the worst days in American history, and that police officer that might have died at the hands of one of the people that attacked the Capitol. What's a true believer, and would you ever consider taking on a case, even though the case is definitely not popular with the public?
Yes. You know, the true believer, I just believe in justice. I believe in fairness. Whether it be legal injustice, social injustice, it kills me. So I do believe in justice, and I don't care who you are. If you're a human being, you are entitled to a defense. You're entitled. The worst person in the world, the best person in the world is entitled to a defense. And I'm okay with that. And I'm okay defending my client. Because, you know, my client may have done some bad things, maybe on video. My client has family. My family loved that person. And that person should be treated fairly. Now, if fair means going to jail for 3 years for what they did, or 4, if that is fair and I sense and I review everything, then it's fair. And my job is to communicate that with my client. But I am a true believer in the system and that I will defend people. They come in here and they're upset and they want to be, we are going to defend them the best we can. Either factually, they're not guilty. They didn't do it, they weren't there, something like that. Or they're guilty. But there's mitigating factors. No record, gainfully employed, having some psychological issues, or drug or alcohol. These are mitigating issues that can lessen the responsibility of my client because of these problems. It doesn't give him a free pass, but it helps. So the true believer in me is that. I believe in our system, and I will always believe in it.
Can you briefly talk about the case where the person came into us and he was accused of having biological weapons buried in his backyard and happened to be in the exact city where we both lived?
Yes.
And how we had to deal with that with our neighbors begging us to give them information, and we couldn't give them information, and they were terrified that the biological weapons might affect them.
Right.
And the result, why don't you just briefly talk about that case?
Yeah, I'll be brief. I represented a gentleman who was being investigated for attempted murder on a gentleman who was his ex-partner in business. They were investigating him. They wanted to speak with him. So he hired me to speak to the police agency, do our investigation, and help him. This is what's called pre-filing investigation. He was never charged yet. So I spoke to the police so he didn't have to. So I'm trying to speak to the police and the DA to hopefully try to make the case go away, show them that he's not guilty, that he wasn't involved. So my client came in to see me, and it was only an attempted murder. That was the case. That's all I thought it was. And then he left my office. After being in my office for 3-4 hours, he went home, and I apparently didn't like his predicament he was in, and he took his own life. And it was very sad, terribly sad. And his wife called me, and I went down there to the house. They called 911. And that's what it was. But as it turned out, he had things buried in his backyard, unbeknownst to even me or his wife, that he had these chemical weapons, or a C4 bomb, buried in his backyard. Well, Irvine had a completely, they took about 50, 75 homes all in the area. They told everyone to move, get out for whatever period of time. They put him up in homes, in hotels for that time, while they brought in hazmat. People came in with their gear to remove everything out.
It was so scary.
The neighborhood was difficult because I lived in their neighborhood, and Steve, what happened? And of course I can't say anything. That's my client. It's a confidential privilege. When he goes, it went with him. So I didn't make any statements.
In that case, I remember you calling me and saying you need to get to the scene because a horrible thing has happened. And I walked up the stairs to the house, and I looked on the wall, and there was this substance on the wall, and I had no idea what it was until I walked inside the bedroom, and I realized that was actually brain matter. His brain matter was on the wall. I will never forget it as long as I live. It's one of those things. Before we go, I want you to talk about the importance of hiring, say, an experienced criminal defense law firm that can basically handle your case versus the public defender handling cases.
Well,
can you talk about why it might be a good idea to consider hiring a private law firm versus a public defender in a serious case?
Okay. The way it works is this. If you cannot afford any money, you can't afford an attorney, you have to get a public defender. I got that. But you should get a private attorney if you're able to, because a private attorney has the manpower, has the time to take care of your case. If you've ever had a public defender, you spent 3-4 minutes in the hallway with them about your felony. We don't want to spend 3-4 minutes in the hallway. We want to spend hours in the office getting an investigator, conducting an investigation, being available for all of our clients' questions. I can't tell you, Paul, how many clients called me. I have a public defender. He does return my call. I haven't seen him in months. In custody defendants. Haven't seen my public defender in 3 months. Paul, that's not right. That's not right. Now, public defenders generally are good people, and probably many of them are very good lawyers. But when you have 250 cases, you're not quite given the time you need to do the job that you need to do. It's risky business, and I don't know if you want to roll the dice with your public defender with 4 minutes in the hallway when you hire a private firm, you get more service and more communication.
You know, we both take a lot of calls from people that are calling. Many times people are crying. They're very upset. And a common theme of all of that is if they'd say, we have a public defender, and we've been placing calls to try to reach the public defender for weeks, and we haven't been able to reach him. These are the loved ones of the defendant. Sure. And we don't know what's going to happen. And we say, well, maybe, we can try to help. We can try to contact the public defender, and they're very grateful. But in many cases, the answer is the public defender, even though they're good lawyers, no doctor could competently do 20 surgeries in a day. It's that simple. Would you rather have a surgeon who's just doing your surgery that day, or a surgeon that had done 5 other surgeries before that day? Exactly. The answer is no. So it's not that we're knocking the public defender. It's just both of our life experiences are so many people call us. They're disappointed with the public defender. And that is something that is this the truth? So what we're going to do is we're going to go to a commercial break. And Steve, I'd like you to stay around for one more question about that new law regarding sex registration. Anyway, we'll be back after the commercial break.
You've been charged with a crime, and now you're facing the loss of your freedom. Where do you turn to get out of jail or stay out of jail? The law offices of Wallin and Klarich. Call 877-4-NO-JAIL. With over 20 years' experience and attorneys who work in your local courts, Wallin and Klarich can make the difference between jail and freedom. When you need help, make one call. Make it to Wallin and Klarich. 877-4-NO-JAIL. The call is free. Will you be?
When your children are taken by social workers, it may be the worst day of your life. When will I see my children again? Where are they going? How can I get them back? Who can I turn to for help to end this nightmare? The answers to all these questions are a phone call or email away. Wallin and Klarich have been helping defend parents who are battling the system to regain custody of their children for 40 years. Many of their clients have done nothing wrong to warrant their children being taken from them. Other clients may regret some action that they've taken with their children. However, in every case, the clients desperately need their children back. That's where Wallin and Klarich comes in. They know the dependency system. They will do all they can to work to try to get your children back with you. Take the first step and call Wallin and Klarich now for a free phone consultation at 877-466-5245. That's 877-466-5245. Or visit wklaw.com to chat with us. They'll be there when you call.
Hey, are you okay to drive? Yeah, I'm fine.
17 to Central Jail.
If you've been arrested for DUI and are facing DMV and court hearings, it could mean losing your license, your job, and even your freedom. But Wallin and Klarich can help. Just call 877-4-NO-JAIL. With attorneys who know your local courts, Wallin and Klarich can make the difference between jail and freedom. Call Wallin and Klarich at 877-4-NO-JAIL. The call is free. Will you be?
When you are facing a serious criminal charge, it means you may be looking at many years in prison or doing up to 1 year in county jail. Most people do not know who to turn to in their time of need for expert legal guidance. What you do next can make the difference between ending up in prison for many years or having your charges dismissed and you going free. At this very critical time in your life, you need Wallin and Klarich fighting for you. Wallin and Klarich has 40 years of criminal defense experience, and they work very hard to do all they can to win their clients' cases. Wallin and Klarich has a team of 10 criminal defense lawyers fighting for their clients every day. They help people with cases pending throughout California. They successfully defend cases dealing with murder, sex crimes, all felonies, as well as misdemeanors. Check out wklaw.com for some real client success stories. They offer a free phone consultation to answer your questions. Call them toll-free at 877-4-NO-JAIL. That's 877-4-NO-JAIL. They will be there when you call.
If you are facing criminal charges, your entire future is at stake. You need to act now to protect your job, your family, and your freedom. Call Wallin and Klarich at 877-4-NO-JAIL. Wallin and Klarich has over 30 years of experience in fighting for our clients' rights. With local offices in Riverside and San Bernardino, we are here to help you now. Call 877-4-NO-JAIL or go to wklaw.com. How much is your freedom worth? Call 877-466-5245. The call is free. Will you be?
Okay, we're back with my partner, Steve Klarich. It's been an amazingly interesting 32 minutes. And now we're going to talk about something extremely important about a law change that has to do with people that have been required to register for many, many, many years as a sex offender. And this is something that we've been helping people with because obviously being a registered sex offender all but destroys your life. So Steve, why don't you talk about this new law and how we've been helping people?
Okay. It used to be if you're convicted of certain sex crimes, and it could be anything. It could be indecent exposure. It could be multiple rapes. Everyone registers for the rest of their life. Their name goes on a website for the world to see. Well, the government felt, the state legislature felt that this is getting crazy, that not everyone should be registering for the rest of their life. So there's a new law, SB 384, and it goes into effect next week, July 1st.
You say SB 384?
SB 384
Okay.
is the law regarding sex offenders. Now, they're putting all these sex offenders into a tier system. It used to be everyone for life. Now, certain people have to register for 10 years based upon the nature of their conviction. Some 20 years. And yes, tier 3 will be life. Tier 1 is 10 years. Tier 2 is 20. Tier 3 is life. So, someone comes in my office. I was convicted in 2001 of child molestation, and I went to prison, and I was released, and I'm off parole now. I've been off parole. He'll likely be designated tier 2. Tier 2, that's a 20-year requirement. So you have to count out 20 years of registration. After that, you qualify to file an SB 384 when it's your birthday. So people that qualify now, July 1, I've done my 20 years. You wait till your birthday, because it starts on your birthday. I think because they didn't want 25,000 petitions filed in July, which they would get. It has to be when it's at your birthday. It's filed in the county where you live, and when it's granted, it would stop your obligation from registration, and your name comes off the website. This is critical for sex offenders because these are one of the few crimes that never goes away. You can punch someone, you can shoot someone, go to prison, get released. You're not on a website. Nobody knows who you are, and you're not registering. Sex crime, you never pay your debt. Paul, I've had clients come in. I've been registering since 1981. 40 years they've been registering. They qualify. They're in. That person was tier 2. He qualifies. His birthday is not till August 8th. So I promised him on August 9th, we're filing that petition. So this is a big, big win for any sex offender who's paid their debt, who's been registering, like you say, Paul, virtually forever.
So this is really important. SB, the law that you just said,
384.
SB 384 can be the salvation for people that are been convicted of a sex offense. It could be 30, 40 years ago, and they're still registering, and they're still pariahs, and they're not a risk. And if you know someone like that, have them call our office because Steve is handling those cases, and we're anticipating having many, many of our clients being free of that obligation so they can go back to work and live in general society. I just want you guys to know that having Steve Klarich as my partner for this many years has been one of the greatest achievements of my life. We've created this law firm together that continues to thrive and will continue to thrive long after we're gone. And it's all based on honesty, being kind to human beings, and caring about human beings. So I want you guys to know I appreciate Stevie being on the show. Okay. It's been a great show, and I would like you to come back again because we only got to about 25% of what we're going to talk about, okay?
Let me know. Thanks,
okay,
Paul.
Everyone, have a great week, and I'll see you next week, same time, 3 p.m. Have a great week.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.